Hello, everyone, and welcome to BEAWorld Student Webinar Session number 10. I am Ragib Nihal Sadab, and I will be the moderator for this session. Today's webinar is going to be regarding the proper use of AI in academic applications, presented by Rayhan Ahmed. Rayhan Ahmed is a second-year computer engineering student at Khalifa University. He began his academic journey at Zakhir Private School and later continued his high school education at Elaine Juniors Private School. Throughout his school years, Rayhan held various student council leadership positions and actively participated in multiple competitions and debates. He notably took part in MUN, Model United Nations, where his team emerged as winners, and he was honored with the Best Speaker Award. After completing his A-levels with strong results, Rayhan secured admission to Khalifa University. Beyond his academic pursuits, he has a strong entrepreneurial mindset with ambitions that extend beyond traditional employment, aiming one day to establish his own tech company. Also, we are delighted to have our chief guest, Dr. Mehedy Masud, joining us for today's session. Dr. Mehedy Masud is a professor in the College of IT in UAE University. He was a former assistant professor in CSE BUET. Before I hand over the stage to our presenter, if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to drop it in the chat box. There will be a separate Q&A session at the end of the presentation where the audience will be free to raise their hand and ask questions to the presenter. With that being said, I will now hand over the floor to Rayhan Ahmed to begin his presentation.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Rayhan Ahmed, as you mentioned, and so today I'm going to present on how to properly use AI in academics. And this is more catered towards the younger people who are in the meetings, to give them an idea of how to actually manage the university life and how to make it easier as well. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll take it step by step. See, why would students even use AI in the first place? Because at some point, regardless of how good of a student you are, how hard you study, it's going to get very pressuring. It's going to be a lot of workload from multiple courses. And when you do encounter that, you're going to have to use AI to some extent, right? You can't just start staying up all night, which is going to affect your sleep, which is just going to create this snowball effect. And it's going to make it harder and harder to keep up. And I feel like that using AI in order to substitute some of that work would be perfectly valid. And as long as you're learning, which I think it's perfectly fine to actually use the AI. So these are some AI tools you can use. Like, for example, Gemini is actually, if you join the meeting, you would see a pop-up saying Gemini is making notes. Even in the meeting, Gemini is being used. So you can see how it's already being applied to some extent, right? So let's go to the next slide. Now, like I mentioned, what are some reasons you might use it, right? Heavy workload, tight deadlines. No matter how good you are at your time management or how good of a student you are, how well you're doing, something can slip past your hands, because obviously we're all human. We're going to make a mistake every now and then, and I don't think that mistake should end up creating a big issue for you or affecting you in a severe way. So that's when you can use AI. And for example, when the coursework is getting difficult and paired with that, poor teachers, I can guarantee you in my university career and every student you can ask at any university, there are bad teachers. And just because someone has a PhD doesn't mean they're a good teacher. And because of this reason, I think that a lot of the time, and a lot of students, and this is something I've asked students about, and I've seen surveys on it, a lot of students, they start using AI to substitute the learning process, to act as a professor for them. But there are some good ways to use AI and some bad ways. And we'll get into that in the next bit, right? So, and even the university encourages it, and I'll mention how it does that in a bit, right? Okay. Now, this is where I'm going to spend a bit of time, because this is how I think we should try to practice using AI and try to learn how to use it properly. So in the beginning, we have here I have my 4 go-to AIs, stuff that I myself use. So from my experience, I'll let you know the drawbacks and everything, but let's start. So these AI, Gemini, and on the top left is Gemini, top right, it's DeepSeek, bottom left is ChatGPT, and bottom right is web browser integrated Copilot. It's in the Microsoft Edge browser, if any of you use it. Now, thing is, the reason you'd use AI, right, would mainly be because you want to finish an assignment, because maybe you forgot about it and it's due in like an hour or 2 hours, and you just physically cannot sit down, do every question by hand and submit it within the deadline. It's not that you don't understand the material or that you intentionally kept it off. It simply was a mistake. And so that's where these AI can be used. But, and this is a very crucial idea, you need to practice how to use the AI properly. And I'll tell you later about some proper methods of using it. But for now, what I'll let you know is that you don't want to stick to one AI. Sticking to one AI was going to make it very difficult to get accurate answers or have a very solid foundation. And what I mean by that is, a lot of the time, these AI, they can get information wrong. They can do maybe all the steps correctly, but somewhere they'll do it, make a mistake, which they themselves aren't aware of. And that mistake could end up giving you the wrong answer, which I've faced a lot of times. And this is usually occurring when I'm doing like maths, physics, these types of questions that are relating to calculation. And when it does make these mistakes, it can obviously, give me a wrong answer and it can interfere with my understanding of how to solve the problem. So what I suggest is you want to mix and match AI, use multiple at once. You want to give the same question to 3 different AI. And if they all come out with the same answer, then you can say that there's some basis for this AI, that this is the right answer. You can say that with a pretty rate, right? So here I've mentioned what I personally, and I think this is also applicable for a lot more students, but I can only speak from personal experience. For projects, studying, as I mentioned before, assignments and brainstorming. So I talked about assignments, and for projects, it's it's an amazing, honestly, to use AI. And what I mean by that is for the research process. Researching can take hours and hours. It can either be you running into issues where you can't find the right website, or you can't find all the necessary information from the study itself, and you might need to access different tools, and it might be behind paywalls, and you need the research, but you can't get access to it, or you can't find it anywhere. And this is where AI comes in. What I've done historically, and I'm just going to give it to you straight, is I've asked the AI, hey, listen, I have a research topic about this. I want you to help me find some research articles and studies that have been done, which are cited and which are reliable from websites. And it gave me a good list of things I could use. Now, here, what you should try to keep in mind is that I didn't ask the AI to write the essay or write whatever I wanted it to write. I'm only using it for the research. I'm only using it to obtain the information, right? And what you can also use the AI for, because obviously, when you're doing these academics, when you're going through these academic articles, studies, they're very long. They're often poorly written because a lot of the time it's more about the information rather than how they display it. So using AI to sort of sort through this, analyze the information, give you the key details is absolutely crucial. Countless hours have been saved from me learning how to use the AI to sort of sift through the information I don't need and obtain the information I do need, right? So, like I said, it's not best to stick to a single idea when it comes to solving questions with high difficulty. You got to ask multiple. And AI has like you have to ask the multiple AI the same question to get the right answer. Now, what are the risks behind not using AI properly? Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't ask the AI to write everything for me, because that is most of the time, every time, it's looked down upon, because you're not doing any actual work, you're not obtaining anything, you're not developing any skills of yours. And a lot of the time the AI writes it poorly. It feels robotic, it doesn't feel human, and reading it is not fun. You don't get any, like, you can tell it's AI. And also plagiarism. So AI has a very big problem with that. You can see that AI would plagiarize often. And so obviously there are workarounds to this, but that's one of the risks behind misusing it. So let me go step by step from the list. Academic dishonesty, submitting AI generated work as your own. That's the number one thing, right? When you're submitting something and you haven't done the work yourself, you might get the grades, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, you haven't learned anything. And it's just, you're shooting yourself in the leg. And if you do end up getting caught, which with AI detectors developing these days, you definitely will, you're gonna just have a really bad day. You're gonna get called up, you're gonna get 0 on the grade, they're gonna put this on your record, and it's gonna look very bad. So just generating the work, just saying ChatGPT, write this article, I'm too lazy, then copy pasting, not a good idea. I've seen so many students, not just from my uni, but other universities, who can't be bothered to actually put in effort from writing these articles themselves, and they just copy paste it, and they get caught more often than not. And when they do get caught, it's I feel bad for them, because I know they could have done it by themselves, but for whatever reasons, they did not. Now, plagiarism or undeclared assistance. Now, this is something I want to talk about, because obviously we have to evolve. The education system has to grow, especially with the growing use of AI, which is like incredible. Like I'd say every student at the university or even other universities uses AI to at least a little bit. And I think here when you plagiarize something, it's a little nuanced, because you can copy the sentence, not say you copied it, and that's plagiarism. But if you do tell them that, yes, I use this quote because it fits perfectly, and you cite and you give credit to the original source, that is not technically plagiarism, because you're crediting the original source. So here's some, I could say, gray areas with that. Undeclared assistance is basically when you do use AI to maybe generate a portion of your article or essay, which is to some extent, this is another gray area. You could say it's fine, but you can also say it's not fine. But not saying that you did generate that part with AI is also ethically not valid. And incorrect, outdated, or biased information. So like I said, AI, if you don't take the right steps, if you just go into it, a lot of the time it's going to have some random things in there, some made up information that it never happened. And obviously, if someone with any bit of credibility checks your paper and sees that, or checks whatever you wrote and sees that, it's going to look very negatively, and you're going to get caught immediately. So don't try to just resort to AI for everything. I will let you know how you should use AI and how to properly use it and how I've used it. But for now, let's glaze over that. Now, obviously, this is a very important one. If you're always just sleeping on the bed, wake up, you realize you have 2 hours before the deadline, type in ChatGPT, please do the assignment, go back to sleep, 30 minutes before, you just paste the answer, you're not going to learn anything, right? And you're not even going to go back to check what the AI said or what it wrote. You just want to Control-C, Control-V into the paper, submit it. And you might get the mark sometimes, but you're not going to learn anything. Then in the final exam or in the midterm, you're going to sit there and you're going to think, how do I use ChatGPT in this situation? Which you can't, because you don't have any devices, right? So you need to learn how to use the AI. Obviously, use it. Go ahead, but obtain as value as you can. So I'm going to talk about some prompt engineering. It's very surface level, but I'm going to tell you how to properly prompt and use AI. Now, for the bad prompt, I've used something one of my friends sent me, complaining about that the AI isn't giving him the right result. I'll tell you, and I wrote a prompt by myself because obviously I've used AI a bit, and I kind of understand how you should phrase your prompts. Right? So I'll start with just reading what I wrote. AI is very helpful, right? But if you tell a bird to fly, it can't, not because it doesn't have wings, but because it doesn't understand you. So it has the capabilities, but you're not letting it know properly. It doesn't understand what you're asking of it. So you need to be, same with AI, you have to be specific and clear. You have to make your prompts as simple as possible. And you don't want to sort of be extremely vague. And we'll look at it the bad prompt. Ignore the images. I don't know what he was trying to do, but look at the prompt. He said, fit the colored photo in the black and white template. That is the most vague sentence anyone could ever say, right? The photo is, which photo should they fit? The colored one, okay, but how do you want to fit it into the black and white template? Do you just shrink it down, put it inside? It doesn't really make sense. And if any of you, I bet you everyone here had a different interpretation of what the prompt asked them, right? And so that's an issue, because if there's so many different interpretations, that means the AI is not sure of what to do exactly. It will do the first thing it thinks of, and it's not going to be the result you want. Now, for the good prompt, which I'm just rephrasing the first one in a better way, which could have been said for a more accurate and better result. Obviously, you could come up with something more thorough and detailed, and you'd get a better result. That's how it works. The more effort you put into writing the prompt, the better the results, right? So here I wrote, instead of saying fit the color, whatever, here I wrote generate a new image. So now it's talking about how you should make a new one. You shouldn't play around with the existing ones. You want a fresh image, which resembles the first image, which is basically the template. They mentioned that there it's a template. So I mentioned that as well. It's going to be a template, a base for how you want to generate the picture, and use the second picture as a reference. So you want to turn that second picture into the first one, sort of like that. So it's a bit more clear, right? It's you're sort of getting the idea a bit more. Obviously, it's not the best work, but it's what I came up with. And this is so crucial when you're using AI and you're working with it, because bad prompts will lead to negative or not as good results. For example, of course, at some point, I've used AI to maybe code, but I don't just copy paste the code. I give it what code I have, and I tell it, listen, you're not going to change any bit of the code. You're going to try to use the simple, you're going to use simple terms and simple language, and you're going to give me the corrected code. You're going to find what's wrong. So this is what I use it for. I use it for debugging the code, right? And I asked it to, in simple terms, explain what I did wrong, and in simple terms, explain how to fix it. That way, I not only am I still doing my own work, I am learning what I'm doing wrong. And indeed, the use of AI is in there, but the AI itself is not producing the final result, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So that's what I think about prompts. In my last few projects for coding or whatever it was, even solving questions, AI has been very useful, but I never ever, and I see people doing this a lot. I've seen my lab partners do this, where they just give ChatGPT the question, get the code, paste it in, and done. I don't like that, because you're not getting anything, obviously, and that's the biggest mistake you can make. What I do, and I do use AI, I'm not infallible, I copy whatever code I have managed to write, even if it's 1-2 lines, whatever it is, the most I can write. Obviously, I've written more, but I copy everything. If at times it's not working, or if at times I can't sort of understand the logic behind the next part, I copy what I've written, I give it to ChatGPT, and I say, keep it in the same format. Don't try to add anything extra that's not already within the existing code. using that, tell me how I can solve this bug or this issue, or how I can add this feature to the original code. And I kind of to explain the thought process behind it. And I think that way it makes it much better. It makes it much better to actually, for the AI to understand and give you a result, and for you to understand the output from the AI and learn from it. So that's how prompts should look like. Be thorough. Just to summarize, be thorough. Put time and effort into writing the prompt. Don't just, like you said, like you can see here, it's just one line. Even the grammar isn't the best, but that doesn't matter. It's just one line. But the second one, it has proper grammar. It explains and specifies what I'm talking about. So this way you'll get the best result. So be specific, don't be vague. The more vague your prompt, the worse the output will be. I mean, you could get lucky and get the output you want, but it's not, I don't think you should leave it up to chance. Now, proper use of AI. So don't ask the AI for the answer outright. Like I mentioned it 100 times. You're probably tired of hearing it, but I have to mention it again because I've seen it so often. It's shocking where people genuinely just don't do a single bit of work, paste it in ChatGPT and get the answer. No, please never ever do that. No matter how desperate it is, I'd say at the bare minimum, the least you could do, right? Because obviously situations will arise which are out of your control. At the least, if you're going to do that, ask ChatGPT for the explanation and step by step. So when you've given your answer and you've gotten the assignment done, you can go back to it and you can look through how it solved it. Or you can even try solving it yourself. Short term, this way that you're not only you're benefiting in the short term, which is you managing to get that assignment done, you're also going to benefit in the long term. You're going to understand how to solve that question. You're going to understand what the thinking process is. You're going to go each step. You're going to be like, oh, this is a step I didn't think of. Now I know to think of that. And this way, you genuinely save yourself. There is no other way of saying it. In finals, in midterms, this is how you save yourself. Because if you just paste that homework, you're not getting any practice. And when the time the midterm comes and you see that question, you're not going to have any idea of any bit of material, even if you study last minute. Because studying is one thing, right? But practice is something that solidifies what you've learned. And if you're learning new things the night before, you're not going to have any solidification. It's going to crumble like sand in the exam hall, especially with the stress, with these invigilators coming down and up and down the halls. Like it's going to be very stressful. And in that stress, you're going to just go blank, mind's blank. You don't remember anything. Stay calm. Practice the questions in your free time whenever you're studying. You don't even have to do it in your free time. When you're studying, when you've allocated this bit of time for studying, practice the questions. Look at my personal way I like to study. And obviously this is different for everyone. So I'm just giving you you can take it or if you leave it. I like to practice the questions. I like to start solving it. Spend half an hour to an hour, even on one question, because at the end of the day, you need to train your thinking. And here, I mentioned it specifically at the bottom in big text, because I need every student to understand. If you always start using AI first thing, like you say, oh, question's too hard, let me use AI. You're not going to be able to achieve much, especially when it comes to exams and quizzes and whatever, things where you don't have access to your device. And your thinking skills suffer a lot. You stop thinking of how to approach the question, how to use these different variables together, and instead you think about ChatGPT, or Gemini, or whatever other AI platform you want to use. So yeah, and like I said, it is your second or third option. Why third? Why not second? Because your first option should be yourself. Obviously, try to figure it out yourself. Second option, go to a friend, go to a professor. And third option is the AI. So, and here I mentioned, unless you're low on time, I'll be honest, and I'll confess, because I've had this happen, and even the best of students I know, they've had this happen to them, which is, and it gave me an insight, like everyone's gonna have encountered the situation. So I feel like it's perfectly okay to do this, where you do ask the AI for the answer, and you just submit whatever you get. Because obviously, after checking it with other AIs, like I mentioned before, you have to use all the information in tandem, and you just submit it, right? But at least come back and check it. At least study what the AI did. At least ask it to explain how it got the answer, because that's the only way you're really going to benefit from that. And if you do have time, if you do understand how to do it, ask it to give you hints. Give it the question, be like, okay, I'm thinking of doing it like this. Can you give me a hint on how to get closer to the right answer? And yeah, and everything is given as, like I've mentioned. So explaining, these are actually very nice and very useful when you're actually asking the AI for outputs. Explain in simple terms, because especially with higher studies, one thing I've noticed is they like to use a lot of big words, and they have synonyms. They mean the exact same thing as another word, but it's just more convoluted. For example, one thing I do remember, because it happened in the quiz, someone was asking the meaning of orthogonal or orthogonal, whatever pronunciation, which it sounds confusing, right? But that just means perpendicular, which is 90 degrees. And, he was confused about it, but he has to ask the professor. So you want to ask about the simple terms so you have the understanding, so you do understand what the AI decides to say. Using real life analogies. This is the best, I'd say the best way to have AI to explain it to you, because you're living life every day. You wake up, you see cars, everything. So when you ask it to use real life analogies, and it compares it with maybe a car, or compares it to riding a bike, you get a better understanding of, okay, I can relate to this bit of information to this piece of knowledge that's engraved in my mind, which helps with retention of the information and much, much better understanding. What of the stuff you learn, especially in engineering, is stuff you experience in real life. Physics is just everything in real life, even balances, whatever. All of this is applicable to your real life. And when you ask it to use the real life analogies, it's going to give you a very good answer. That's easy to understand. And yeah, so that's another example. Answer the physics question, but tell me how you did it. Tell me how you went step by step. So it's going to give you the thinking process, which is just going to help you understand and develop your skills. So this is something important, and I'll talk about this a bit, because like I mentioned earlier, the universities are evolving and developing their learning systems. I mentioned a lot about how you shouldn't use AI outright, or you should try to do it yourself first. But AI use is actually somewhat encouraged. And the way I mean is, at least for my university, and right now I'm going to give you the tools you can access. If you're a student in a university, I believe, I'm not sure about lower grades, you get a whole year of Gemini Pro for free, which means you get access to the highest quality models, and you're going to get the best answers, and it's going to be absolutely much better. And for Khalifa University, what they've done is they've partnered with ChatGPT, and now every student attending the university has access to ChatGPT 5, or has access to the highest tools of ChatGPT. And this is amazing, because when you can use AI nonstop, because usually ChatGPT and these AI, they have a limit. They stop you after a while, but you might not be done studying, or you might have more questions, whatever. That's going to hinder your learning process. So with ChatGPT 5, you're getting higher quality answers, better quality explanations, and you can paste images and whatever, and you have a lot more tools at your disposal. So know if your university permits, or school, but mainly university, permits the use of AI. Our university did not tolerate any AI before, but now, even in research projects, which I've done recently, they say, go ahead, use AI, but you must tell us to what degree you used it. Did you use it for research, brainstorming, writing the whole essay? how much did you use? And obviously, no one's going to say they used it to write the whole essay, but I think you should be honest and you should try not to write the whole essay. Like I mentioned here, do not use AI to generate essays. Just copy paste it. AI detectors will easily and immediately, just like that, catch it. And if you don't have an understanding professor who's nice, they're just going to give you a 0 on the spot, and you're going to lose such a big portion of your grade. So what am I trying to say here? Figure out to what extent you can use AI, and if you want to, if you feel like it, if you're not, if you're overwhelmed or whatever reason you may have, go ahead and use AI. Personally, how I use AI to write my essays or to do the help me with writing them or the research is, and I'm gonna be honest here, I asked the AI to generate the whole essay, right? But I have never copy pasted it. I mainly use it I read the essay it wrote, and I thought about how it progressed through the information, how it gave me and how it showed the information in each section of the essay. And I sort of took that and I was like, okay, this is the framework of how I want to make my essay. And then I started writing myself. You can paraphrase from the AI if you, but you have to paraphrase. You can even copy paste some lines, but try to keep it at a very bare minimum. Most of it you should write by yourself, which is what I did. And I got very, very good grades in my everything project related. So everything essay related and project related. So I think that by itself is more than enough and evident that using AI is fine, but learn what the AI does. Then try to adapt it to yourself. Because I've seen like my friends, for example, in English, they didn't tell me, I read it, I could just immediately tell it's AI. Because it's a bit high level. It's a higher level. They use a higher level of English that's not really used much. They use a lot of dashes, you'll notice. This is not AI generated, but anyway, they try to be over the top of their language. So just understand that these are some limitations you have when you're trying to use AI to generate your essays. So I'm going to summarize because I did ramble on for a bit. Use AI, go ahead, do it, but never copy paste. Always learn from what the AI did and make it your own and use your own words and just start writing by yourself, at least for the essay part. And obviously knowing the rules is knowing the rules. See what your university allows and what it doesn't. Take advantage of it, what it does allow. Try to stay away from what it doesn't. And that's it. But I did want to mention a few more things about using the AIs and which ones to use. Like I mentioned beforehand, we have Gemini, DeepSeek, ChatGPT, and even Microsoft Copilot. Now, for whenever you're writing essays or whenever you're solving questions or whenever you're doing anything work related, you want to at least resort to ChatGPT for your general purpose. Gemini, I'd say for your calculations or your image generation, if you want to look at any graphs, try to get an understanding of that. But I'd say DeepSeek has the best use for calculations, for maths and physics. Most of the time, it doesn't have very good, it doesn't have any image reading or image generating capabilities, but the calculations it does do is very good and it's very useful and it's helped a lot through my career. So that's all I sort of wanted to say about that. And just to keep yourself in the limitations, hold yourself down, do your work as much as you can. When you do end up using AI, for whatever reason, you don't have to hold off on using it, but when you decide to use it, do it in moderation. Do it with standards and limits set for yourself. Don't go all in and just start generating assignment answers after one each other and just paste it and you're done and you just do whatever else you want. So try to keep it to a bare minimum. And even if you do have to resort to that, learn from what the AI does. Always try to learn. Never try to let AI do all the work and you don't do any of it. the bare minimum work you can do and you should always do is learn from what the AI has done, because at that point you're not gonna get any better, and the AI is just gonna keep outperforming you in all cases. And in an exam and in the midterm, you're gonna end up stumbling, and it's gonna be a big effect on your final grade. So that's all I wanted to say, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Rayhan. That was a wonderful presentation. It was very practical and helpful, not just for academic students, but for anyone that uses these chatbots for their personal use. It was a really nice way of demonstrating how to use AI the right way. And now I'm going to open the floor for any questions. If any audience member would like to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand or drop it in the chat box below. I see Mr. Absar Chai. You have said something in the chat. Would you mind elaborating or presenting a question if you have any?
Yes, I want to ask this first question. First of all, I want to really, the presentation was very great and it is very useful. And AI is, everybody knows that is one of the hot topics and most demanding topic in the world. And I believe all the audiences got the proper information and it is very useful. So just I want to go back to your presentation about the plagiarism. So it is very sensitive, and there is so I want to know from you that if we want to use AI for the academic purpose, so do you think that any reference or if we give the reference to the academic work, so we can waive to avoid the plagiarism, or it will be accepted by academic?
Yeah. Yes. So I'll let you know. So basically, if you're using the AI, first of all, to research topics or research articles, like I mentioned, and you use that information in your essay, you can cite it. There's always citations that you need to provide for which bit of information you obtain from where. And it's always mandatory, actually, to have credibility to your essay, because you can't just not have any citations and just say it by yourself, because that's not reliable information. You need to prove a basis. Now, if you're talking about content or sentences or anything that you've generated from AI, even diagrams I have, before I've generated images from AI, which I have used. If you're regarding stuff that's been generated by ChatGPT or by the AI itself, you can still cite that using whatever citation style you want to use. You can mention that it was generated by AI, and that is still accepted by the university as a valid form of reference. But again, like I mentioned, if a majority of your work is AI generated, which means that you've generated a whole paragraph by AI, that's obviously very looked down upon. But if you have a sentence that you used, or a bit of information, or an image, or a graph, perfectly fine to use it and generate and refer to the ChatGPT or whatever AI bot you used. It's perfectly accepted. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I'd actually like to ask a question as well. So, like, compared to going to the professors for help, why would you use AI instead?
Oh, okay, that's a very good question. So amazing question, and there's so many ways I can get into this, but I'll try to keep it short and simple. Just because someone, and I mentioned this, I think, just because someone has a PhD, 100% they're smart, they're capable, they understand the material, but that doesn't always equate to them being a good teacher. And from my personal experience, it is an absolute truth. I've had teachers who were just could not get the information across, and they could not give that energy out and give that energy to the students, get the information to them, explain the topic well. I'm sure they understood it. I'm sure they could solve the questions themselves, of course, but doesn't mean they're a good teacher. And another point is that these professors aren't always available. They're humans, and which are perfectly fine. They need to take their breaks. But sometimes you might be in a dire need of understanding the question because maybe you have a quiz tomorrow and you're studying at night for whatever reason. So I think asking ChatGPT for the question to help explain it to you, you're going to get a better result than having to message your professor. He's not gonna see the message, and you're just going to be waiting there for God knows how long, not receive a response, which is, to be expected, because they can't always be active and they can't answer every small question you might have. But AI can definitely do that. I think that's one of the benefits of using AI, is that even some questions that people might not think are like worth asking, stupid question, not, there's no such thing, but you might think that and don't want to ask the professor, just go ask ChatGPT. You're going to get a pretty good answer, and it's going to be very valuable. I keep saying ChatGPT, but any high quality AI models they'll give you the same results. That's all. Thank you.
I see that Mr. Muhammad Nashidul has raised his hand. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Ahmed Nashidul. Thank you for your nice presentation. I have some question, and the question is that we know that there are so many advantages for AI at present, but also there are so many disadvantages from AI. The problem is that one of the problem is that the young generation are not focusing for their academic activities because of AI. By the using of AI, they know that everything using their merit. So there are any solution for this to overcome the problem?
So that's a very good question. And I'm gonna give you the answer that I personally think makes the most sense. And it might not be the answer that's easiest to implement or the best solution, but I think for the younger generation, of course, at that point, and I'm being truthful, it's very dependent on the parents, because the parents are raising the kids. And the way they expose the children to bits of the internet and whatever, giving them exposure to the chat AIs and whatever. So if you expose the kids to these AI at an early age and you teach them how to use it, and they're going to figure it out. But I think you should try to limit their usage of the devices so they can't use AI as easily. And when they're studying, they stick to a paper-based solution, paper-based method, because you need to teach them discipline, because that's the most important part about anything in life, is discipline. Because if you have a lack of discipline, you're not going to stick to something. So especially, like I said, if you, like I mentioned a lot of times, if you just straight up paste that ChatGPT responses, the AI responses, you're not going to be getting very much yourself. And in the short term, it's going to be good, but the long term is going to really affect your grades and your ability to think and your personal skills very harshly. And that's all I have to say. So to summarize, the parents need to, because obviously a child can't really think, do a lot of for themselves. So the parents need to be very strict about their using devices when they're studying. And I'd say that's my answer.
Okay, next we have a question from Muhammad Ashraful Alam. Please do raise a question if you have any.
Yeah, thank you, Ragib, for giving me this opportunity. Yeah, today's presentation was good, and it is actually currently what we need to have. Now, my question is that AI is just, I will say some background. AI is a reality now. So we are not going back to our previous generation, what we used to do, like reading hard books and doing all these reference checking, going to the library, searching different types of books and other stuff. So so what do you think, like as a new generation, and you leading the next generation as well, that should we have the same strategy what we have been having for the last 30-40 years, like the way the teachers are teaching in the universities or in the colleges, and the way we are learning the whole things, and still we are writing the papers, while in practical field we never use the papers. We use everything by computer or search stuffs in the Google, or using the AI means the systems what we currently have. So what do you think that should have we should have few changes in our education system and the way we learn and the way we teach. What is your perspective on this?
Yeah, amazing question. So I think this also goes in with what the previous person asked, is that there's a reliance of AI. I do think that we've advanced, and I think the only way to keep advancing is to change what we do now. Because if we stuck to using wooden wheels on carts, it's obviously not the most efficient way. We found out that rubber has better grip, so we change how the tires look. We change the material they're made of. So what I'm trying to sort of explain by this is that we need to evolve as the technology around us does. If we're trying to study in old ways, which they do have their benefits, 100%, but if we're trying to stick to that method, where we have more efficient tools at our disposal, I think that is going to hinder our process. For example, some students may struggle with learning, and instead of the teacher, because obviously one teacher is one person, he's a human, and he can teach a general idea to the class, but a lot of the time students might have difficulties understanding. And imagine you had a personal tutor to teach you and help you with every small question you had, every bit of information that you needed or that you didn't know, you were confused about. And I personally think that that way, where we stick to giving them a personalized learning experience, is going to be more efficient and much better than having, like you said, actually, I love that point where we're doing on paper, but in practical, there's no really effect to it. I think we should stick to more practically applicable things, doing labs, more hands-on work than just writing it down, because you're gonna forget whatever you learned in like a few months, especially as a student. I'm telling this from my own experience. In a few months, I don't remember much, but the labs, the practicals I've done, they're engraved in me because I did them. I personally went out, I was interested, I was invested, I was focused on what I was doing. So that stays with me a lot. So I think we do need to change how we teach and how we learn, because the future isn't about writing what's on paper. Even coding, for example, coding on paper and giving it, that's just not efficient and doesn't make any sense, honestly. So that's my answer to that question.
I hope that answers your question, Mr. Mohammed Ashraf. Now we have a question from Mr. Tamjeed Sharif.
Hi, yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I just want to appreciate Mr. Rayhan's presentation. It was a very detailed and organized presentation. So like the question I would like to ask is that, how AI is evolving as the world is improving. So do you think, how can students balance using AI and developing their own thinking skills? Because, as the teachers nowadays say that students' cognitive thinking is being reduced. So how do you think we can balance this along with the use of AI?
So this again, and my greatest regret is I can't give the perfect solution, the perfect answer that just solves all the issues you have. But the way I see it is that this is something that you have to teach the kids at a young age. Again, one word: discipline. As a student myself, obviously, I've wanted to just laze around, sleep, wake up and submit the AI answer. But then I also think to myself that the consequences of the short term and the long term, I compared them, of using this AI to just forgo my thinking skills and just get it to solve the questions for me. So this is something that we have to do by ourselves. And it's something we have to practice by ourselves, where we sort of have, again, like I said, the old paper-based method where we don't have any access to any chatbots devices, and we just think about the question. Spend an hour, spend 2 hours. Even if it's just one question, just try to think about all those stuff you've learned, because that's going to help develop your brain. And doing puzzles, doing exercises that work your brain will further help these thinking skills. So, like I said, this is something you have to practice by yourself. No one else can force you, unless it's your parents or something, but to the most part, as an adult, especially in university, this is a responsibility you have. So you're not gonna pay taxes, you're not working a job at university, but so you don't have that many responsibilities. But the bare minimum is you stay ethical, you stay grounded, and you try to do the work by yourself at bare minimum. And if you're struggling, you can use AI to help explain, and then try to get it to help you understand it. And if you can't, at the very end, you can ask for the answer. But even then, you should try to practice your thinking skills without trying to rely on AI. And that's also something that's preached. You use AI to brainstorm of ideas, but then you leave the critical thinking to the people. So this way, AI and you are working together, and you can produce like the best result from that.
Okay, hopefully that answers your question too. We now have a question in the chat, actually, from Mr. Tahnoon. He says it's regarding the rise of AI. Do you think increased reliance on AI could impact our ability to think critically and independently explore topics on our own? And how would you suggest we balance using AI as a tool while still maintaining strong analytical and investigative skills?
That's a very good question, and it also, okay, that's a good question. It makes me think a little bit. But one thing I'd like to say before I preface the answer is we shouldn't antagonize AI. We shouldn't make it like, oh, people are using it, they're losing their skills. We should try to embrace it as much as we can, because the way we embrace it, of course, is to it's not only use it, but also think for ourselves. Because I understand the worries related to AI, where obviously everyone's going to start using it, is going to give you the answer just like that. I know people who can't even go to the grocery without using AI. They have to ask ChatGPT what they need to buy. This is a very serious issue that we face, and it's a valid issue, concern. Our increased reliance on AI has definitely impacted our ability to think critically and independently explore our own topics, like you said. So what I would suggest, my best suggestion is, again, this is something where responsibility and your own self comes into play. People who are lazier will use AI more often to do their exams or do their questions or solve their whatever. Obviously, people who are fine with doing the work, who are disciplined, like I said, I'm going to say this, I said this word 100 times, discipline, discipline, discipline. Keep AI as a second or even a third option. And that's by doing that, you're going to further your own progress by a lot. And how would you suggest we balance using AI as a tool while still maintaining strong analytical skills and investigative skills? Like I mentioned in my previous answer, and this is, I think it's like the most perfect way of saying it, because I've done this myself and I've seen it work, is ask AI, ask it for something, like ask it for all the ideas you could do. Ask it for the menial work, the stuff that doesn't really matter. For example, I think in the way my research, like the way I did the research and I analyzed it, you could consider that to be analytical and investigative skills, where I'm not really going out and finding the research, but I am asking the ChatGPT to give me some credible sources, extract the information that is relating to my essay, and now from there on, I have started the work. AI is out of it, I'm doing the work now. I'm going to look through each response. I'm going to see and understand. So I'm analyzing the information it gave me. And obviously, depending on the prompt, it's going to give me the exact exact words from the studies. I'm going to analyze it. I'm going to, what I do is I double check to see if that bit of information is actually in the essay. So I feel like that would fall under your investigative portion. So I'm analyzing the information, I'm double checking it, I'm crossing it with different sources. I check the multiple articles that did give me. I see if they're cited, I see if they're reliable. But this is where my work comes in, right? Otherwise, I would have had to go through a bunch of researches. I can't always find out the exact ones I want on this website, but on another website, it's there, but I can't, it's a lot of menial work that could be skipped with AI. And once I've done that, I do double check and I do my personal work to make sure that these are valid sources I can use. These sort the information, I analyze it, and I write the essay myself, paraphrasing or quoting the information. So I think that we need to leave the menial, the labor tasks to the AI and leave the more critical thinking, more thought-provoking tasks to us. And I know the answer was a bit drawn out, but that's my overall answer for the question.
Thank you for that response. It seems the question has been answered properly. Another question in chat by Mr. Sanjoy he says, electric design versus AI-generated design complication. Please clarify. I'm not sure if that's clear. Would you mind elaborating, please, on that question? In the meantime, I actually have another question.
Yeah, I am here. Please.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry. Actually, I am an electrical engineer, so I have not definitely not using enough AI tools actually. Just I have come to know and gathering knowledge. As a matter of design, you know, it's very sensitive for electric design. Obviously, we can get some facilities regarding safety issue and cost effectiveness in design. We have to follow all sorts of material in designing. Just I like to know, as I am very much new regarding this issue, how much effect of this in our design it may be effect in our design actually. How I can use this in my designing calculation. So far, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Okay, so that makes more sense. And I was sort of hoping someone would ask this, is you are the electrical engineer. You've done your master's or undergraduate, whatever qualification you have, mashallah, and you have all the skills to implement the final design and actually make the design up. Like I mentioned, the AI, think of it as free labor. Use it to keep a track of what you need to do or some variables you need to address. Maybe you need to draw a design. I'm not an electrical engineer, so I can't tell you everything that you might encounter, but simple terms, you need to have these elements in the design. And you could ask the ChatGPT, you could ask the chatbot, okay, keep this in mind. I'm going to design how, and you can tell it, I can make these sorts of connections. Are these connections going to interfere with anything else? So the small things, the labor, the things that don't require much thinking, just takes a lot of time, you can use the chat AI bots for that. But for the critical thinking skills of how you're going to lay it out and how you're going to put each element in each place, that is from your skill. And then once the design is finished, you're going to realize that you've done everything yourself. Just AI makes sure you don't make any mistakes. So that's what I'm trying to say. Use the bot to sort of help you, but don't make it do the work for you.
Nice. So I can get a cross examination with the help of
yes,
this.
exactly.
Thank you.
I guess I'll proceed with my question now, which is, I guess, on a more personal note. Do you have any, of course, you use AI yourself in your personal life, so do you have any personal tips you'd like to share?
Okay, so I think I shared a lot of my own personal tips when I talked about and I rambled on about, you know, the different uses and different ways. So bare minimum, just study, do the work, whatever. When you're like, just try to stay away from, I know it's going to go against what I said. As a student, try to keep away from AI for a bit and try to study by yourself. When you're encountering problems, you want to discuss it with your friends. As for like, personally, when I use AI, I don't use it for the small stuff, like doing a question or doing my homework. I don't try to use it that much, or unless obviously I'm late. But anyway, I try to do everything by myself. I try to keep it, because again, this goes back to discipline. You don't want to resort to AI. You want to keep it at the very end. Do everything by yourself, because university is a place for me to develop my skills. And that's what I'm trying to do. But sometimes it's going to call for me needing to use AI, because everyone has to learn how to use it, because that's how the direction of the world is going so far. Is AI is being integrated into a lot of things. So when it comes to projects or bigger tasks that have more workload, I start using AI to help manage that workload. Because if the teacher gives me a single question, I can solve that. It's not going to be that bad. But teacher gives me 100 questions, that seems like me and ChatGPT and DeepSeek and all these other AIs, we got to work together on that, like a team effort. So that's when I'd say it's fine to start using AI to help you, but not generate the answers. Do not just straight up generate them. Ask it, I'm doing it this way, is that correct? If it says yes, keep going. If it says no, ask it for the proper direction. And that's the best way you can use it.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, it seems there's no more questions left, so I'd like to invite our chief guest, Dr. Mehedy Masud, to share some valuable info.
Thank you, Ragib. First of all, thanks, Rayhan, for your nice presentation. We got a lot of valuable information and directions. I hope for especially students who are following this lecture. So, Rayhan explained everything very nicely. I don't think I have much to add, but I would like to just introduce to you, maybe you already used it, but just a few things that you might find very useful for your study and research. If you allow me to share the screen. So the first thing I'm going to just a quick look at, it's called Notebook LM. I don't know if you used it.
Yeah, I've used it. I've heard of it.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. Okay, so I find it very useful, especially for study purpose. The GPT, Gemini, these things, they are very general, and sometimes they can get into hallucination if you ask any question. But this Notebook LM, it is based on a technique called RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. So it can generate the information based on the topic and the content that we give it. So I will just show you just a few samples. First thing, let's say I uploaded a book chapter here, and then it automatically generated many things. One of them, you can see this mind map, which showing basically, I think it's already here. So it is showing basically the, they call it the mind map.
I believe it's the one that says Foundations of Artificial at the top.
Okay, yes. Yeah, so it is showing the topic, breaking down different parts. So this is the main chapter topic, and then these are different contents and then sub-contents. And then if you go inside anything, it will go back to the reference in the text where it found this thing, and it will show it. So this is the first thing, very useful, I find it. Secondly, it can generate videos. For example, it generated the video from this PDF, and this video is very nice, and it tries to make it very interactive, very interesting. So I'll just show you just first couple of seconds. Maybe there will be no sound. So this is just a video generation. It generates like 7-8 minutes video. you can have flashcards for study. So it generates questions and you try to remember what is the answer. If you don't, just click on it, it will show you the answer. Thirdly, it can generate audio podcast. So if you generate the podcast, there will be two people talking to each other, asking questions about the topic and answers based on the content. It can generate quizzes. So what are the possible, these are basically multiple choice questions, but you can also generate short answer and essay questions, and it will also show you the answer. So I found it very useful, and it can also generate infographics. For example, slides, basically slides from this. So it generates basically about 15 slides from this PDF file, and then I think this one is infographics. Oh, this is the slide, sorry. So anyway, this is the first thing I wanted to show. You can upload your content here, or you can just type anything. For example, I did another notebook where I just ask, find the top 10 most notorious cyber attacks. So it did the internet search and it found the top 10 references. And then it generated these things based on these references. So we can either choose, we can add more references, or we can choose only one or two, which is very useful. So this is basically very useful for study purpose. Secondly, I will show you another one, which is called SciSpace. This is mainly for research purpose. And it also has many different activities. For example, so you can write any topic and do research. So it will find this, references, and from there you can generate many things. For example, all of this, like a PowerPoint and these things, you can do draft a manuscript. You can write systematic literature review from those contents. You can build websites and so on. And then it also has many functionalities. One of them includes AI detector. So you can use this thing to test whether what you have written or what you are going to submit as your assignment is going to be detected as AI. Now moving on. One more question was related to coding, I guess. There are many tools, including GPT and other things, so they can generate really complex codes nowadays. And I think it's not a bad thing to start with. Usually students who struggle with coding, they can have something to start with, and they can grow from there. However, depending totally on GPT or these tools for coding, these are actually recent research has found that software engineers are actually wasting their time in using these coding tools. They wasted like 20% more time, because when AI tool generate the code, they have to, it can come up with really new type of bugs or mistakes that takes more time to fix it. So just the last thing about writing essays and these things about using AI. So I 100% agree with Rayhan, who says, so you can generate it, but don't copy paste. You write in your own word and you add your own content and just think about it and make it more useful. All right, it is easy to detect. I get emails from students who just wanted to say, okay, can you add this to my coursework? And it was like 10 lines, and I know this is GPT generated. I mean, it's so boring. So don't try to write emails with GPT, write it in your own words or your assignments and so on. So, and the last thing is actually everything is now experimental, because this thing has grown so fast that we even educators don't know how to handle it, let alone the students. So, and this thing is evolving so fast. So everything still is kind of experimental. So, but you have to be very careful how you use it, and make sure your skills and experiences don't get messed up with the AI tools. So I think that's it. Was there any question, Rayhan? You raised your hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm honestly, thank you a lot for introducing that notebook LM AI space AI tool. I wanted to ask, was it a free service, or was it like you have to pay to get the full access? Just out of curiosity.
Okay. SciSpace, you have to pay, but Notebook LM, you can use it, every day, like almost for everything. I mean, not heavy use, just light use. You can use every day, step by step. For example, you can generate these things for 10 different sources, so you can have 10 different notebooks per day, something like that.
Okay.
However, for the SciSpace, there is this limitation for free usage, and it can be used up real quick, but still it is good for, for your one assignment or one research work for one day. Next day you get the same amount again. Yeah.
Okay.
Mohammed Ashraful. Oh yeah. So the Notebook LM and SciSpace. Yeah, that's two things. I think. All right.
Yeah, very, very nice thing, actually, Dr. Mehedy. Thank you for this one. Actually, in the professional field also, we used to have a lot of presentations and other things we are doing. So I
Right.
was not aware about this notebook LM. It looks like it will be very great tool to use in
It is really useful.
Yeah, it looks like that. Is it by Google actually? Means just I
Yeah,
searching
it's from
and
Google.
it's by Google. Yeah, okay. It's
In
good.
the background, it is using Gemini.
Gemini. Yeah, I think it will be great one actually. Thank you for referring this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. So I think that's it for today from me. And thanks everyone for this nice arrangement. Thanks Reza Bhai for arranging these excellent topics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mehedy Masud. Those were some very valuable tools you just showed us, and I'm sure it will help a lot of people in their fields, in their careers. And I guess with that, we've reached the end of our session. We wish to see every one of you in our next webinar. This was pretty successful, and I hope you all gained something from this session. Thank you very much.